Hey, can you guys hear me?
Coming to you live from downtown Detroit, this is Benzinga's PreMarket Prep with your host, Joel Elconin.
This is a volatile puppy here, isn't it?
And Dennis Dick.
I've bid a penny. I will buy the stock for a penny.
With everything you need to start your trading day.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Black Friday edition of Benzinga's PreMarket Prep. I'm Spencer Israel here with Joel Elconin and Dennis Dick. On the show today, we're going to talk a little bit of retail. We'll talk a lot of tech, and you'll understand why in a minute. We're going to talk about the hottest stocks that have maybe a little bit of exposure to the blockchain and the cryptos, and they've been on fire. We've talked about those for the past couple of days. We'll get your questions from the chat as always, and that'll be about it. So a lighthearted day today. We're also joined by a special guest who I will let Joel introduce after he does his spiel about the market. So Joel, what is doing this morning in the S&Ps?
S&P futures are in the green by 4 points. Nice range overnight. Dip down to 89.50, up in a 2,600 handle. 02.25. That's your pre-market high. That's a target on the upside. Above that, there's nothing in there because we've never traded up in this area before. Crude oil trading up 26 cents. High of 58.91, just hanging up there right now. We have gold down 260 at 1288.10, and silver just above 17 at 1702. We have Bitcoin that's trading at 82.50. But man, I'm going to bring in Dennis, and then Dennis, we got a really exciting thing to announce to our listeners today. Dennis, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Had my turkey day, even though I'm Canadian, but I did enjoy it. I actually even got to Detroit there at the Red Wing game on Wednesday night and watched the Oilers beat the Wings. Sorry, Detroit fans. I cheer for all the Detroit teams except the Wings, and I'm actually an Oilers fan, so big 6-2 win. Greektown was popping. Yeah, it was fun. A couple days off.
I get a text. I get a text from Dennis at midnight, like as if I'm awake.
I'm like a kid again.
At midnight on Thursday, saying Greektown's popping. Are you here? No, I'm sleeping.
Like, where are you, Spencer Israel?
Okay. And we are also joined on the show today. We've never done this before, but we have another host, and that's Sean Udall, CIO of Quantum Trading Strategies. Sean's been a consistent guest on our show over the years, and we figured on this Black Friday here we'd have Sean on. Sean, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I feel privileged and honored to be here in this capacity today.
You are in some distinguished company here, so let's
very.
So let's.
Joel pats himself on the back. Joel, not distinguished though. Just me and Spencer.
So let's start out, Sean. Everyone has their own kind of trading routine. I know you're very research oriented. You're also technically oriented. You're out there in Arizona, right? Is that correct?
I am, yes. And thankfully now, I get an extra hour of sleep.
Yeah.
So really doesn't really translate to sleep, but it translates to I'm easily up like many hours before the market opens. Well, I don't know about many, but normally in that California time zone, it's a little tougher. I'm on free and easy street now with the time zone change.
So what's it, 6 o'clock, 6:05 out there for you?
Yeah, 6:05, 7:30 market open instead of a 6:30 market open. So it's literally pure heaven. This is my favorite time zone, by the way. If I were to pick a perfect time zone for a professional stock trader, it would be the Mountain Time Zone.
And tell us why.
Well, I mean, I think 7:30 is a perfect start time. 9:30 would be very weird being on New York time for me because 9:30 is a late start time. And the market 7:30 is good, and then the market opens or closes 2 hours earlier versus the New York folks. So market closes at 2:30. And then you still have plenty of time to finish up whatever work you want to do and get out and do some stuff and enjoy the day.
All right. So tell us about your early morning routine.
Yeah, I probably don't have a super consistent early morning routine. I probably do more work at night than a lot of people do. So I probably, at least 4 or 5 nights a week, I'll go through charts for anywhere from, sometimes it doesn't take me very long, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And other times maybe up to an hour. It just depends how many setups and how many things I'm seeing. And in the morning, I get a couple services. I use I'm not going to name them because they're not Benzinga Pro, but they're very similar. You guys probably know the names of these things I'm using. So I have a couple services where I get kind of all the news and notes of the day, and I look at that. And same thing, some days, it's a 3-minute read. Other days it might be a half an hour read if something like very material happens. A couple weeks ago, for example, when there was a bid for Qualcomm, I put a lot more time into that morning because I really wanted to understand, was that a real thing? Are they serious? What does Qualcomm think? Blah, 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 blah. So, if it's just a bunch of upgrades and downgrades and there's not really any meaningful news, then, for me, my morning ritual reading the rags is, maybe 5 to 10 minutes or something like that.
So what we do at the top of the show, we, cover some morning movers and some trading action. So we'll do that. And then we'll just, we want to delve into tech stocks. We know that you're the tech stock strategist, and we'll cover a lot of those. We have some movers this morning, and
always got movers.
We always got movers. I guess your disaster here on Black Friday is RYB. A company, RYBE Education. Spencer, you got the news on them.
They are a Chinese education company, and they got a really, really bad headline. It looks like that there is a police report involving claims of molestation and abuse of children at their schools in China. So police are involved. Chinese education. I didn't even know that you can invest in. I didn't know they had Chinese education stocks. They do apparently. This one is getting rocked this morning off that headline.
The stock I don't know if we've ever talked about on the show before, and it hasn't been out there that long. So maybe that's the reason here too. RYBE Education. I wonder if this was something before. And this is, something I just changed the name of it because we've only got a month of data here, month and a half of data when I'm looking at it. It looks like it came out first day of trading back on September 27th. Stock's just been hanging out between 24 and 31 bucks, but today they are pulling the rug out from underneath this thing, obviously on that terrible headline. Stock is down 37%. It's one of the biggest losers out there right now. I don't even know what to say about this. Joel, levels are tough when stocks making new all-time lows.
Right. 1670, 1670 is where it's trading. It hit a low of 1361, so you're $3 off that low. That obliterates the former all-time low with 23.23. So I don't know. It looks like low of the day could be in there, 1361. You haven't even come near it on any other attempt to go lower. 18 has been the cap on the upside here. Sean, I'm sure this is not one that you have much of an opinion on or follow. Right?
No, excuse me. No, other than we have had a number of China IPOs, so I'm sure this is one of them. I want to say I could, let me look. I think they IPO'd around 18. I'm trying to remember the price. I do look at every IPO typically coming too. So I think I have seen the ticker and the name. Just looked here. They IPO'd to 1850. They raised the range from 16 to 18. That's all I know about it.
You're back in that range now.
Yeah.
A couple of sympathy plays to be aware of as well. BEDU is one. FEDU is another.
Slow down. Give us those again, Spencer, because this is where my wheelhouse is. BEDU.
Yep.
Sympathy for this.
Yep.
And it's offered down. No trades on this in the pre-market, but it is offered down $1 here in the pre-market. Some of these might be real thin. What's the next one?
FEDU.
FEDU. Just bringing it up here right now, and it's down about 32 cents in the pre-market. Hasn't traded much either, but this is
last one. Last one is EDU.
And EDU, and it's down $1.41 in the pre-market here too. So all these stocks getting the beats. So that's my wheelhouse. When some leaders down 37%, you often do have sympathy moves, and sometimes they lag a little bit. They're a little bit slower. And actually, EDU just getting started here now, really in the last 10 minutes here. It was trading down. Now it's trading down $1.50, $2.50 here in the pre-market. The FEDU trading down 32 cents, and the BEDU, which is offered down the pre-market right now at 1960, closed to 2051. So that would be going down $1, and nobody's lifting that offer right away. So telling me that it maybe wants to even go lower. Somebody just offered 1950. So it looks like it's going lower.
All right. Also in the news, some good news for Teva Pharmaceuticals, TEVA, one of the worst performers of the year. Spencer, what has them trading in the green this morning?
According to a large Israeli business newspaper, they're going to be laying off 20 to 25% of their Israeli workforce, plus a few thousand people in the U.S. So
let's move off from Teva. Let's get into what's really moving and go over here into some of these other stocks, these Bitcoin plays here, because I just tweeted about it. And anybody following my Twitter is me like, why are we talking Teva? Why are we talking RIOT or B? Let's go talk RIOT, because we were talking this one on Wednesday. Joel wrote an article on this. I think it was Wednesday morning. And we talked about it on the show. And, Joel, we were both kicking ourselves. Me and you were talking it. We were kicking ourselves yesterday when we were talking over Turkey Day because we talked about this on the show at $10. And we said we both liked it. It looked like it was breaking out. And then neither of us buy it. There's multiple people in the chat bought it because we said it. But here we are. We always talk about stocks. We both like something, Joel. We just got to go out and after, we mention it on the show, then we should go out and buy some ourselves.
Is that legal, though? Can we do that?
It's legal, yeah. We mention it on the show. And when it's not like we're talking our own portfolio, we actually mention it, give you all the ideas first. Like, you guys all have the lead on the dang thing. And then we come in here. So, yeah, it's legal.
Right.
I mean, think about Fast Money. Those guys talk their book all the time. We're not even talking our book. We don't even own it yet.
All right. Boy, oh boy. 1960 and what it hit. Trading at 1862. I mean, Bitcoin. It goes from a biotech company to a Bitcoin mining company. I mean,
not Bitcoin mining. They invest in blockchain.
This is the genius move we were saying 2 days ago when the stock was at 11. Now it's at $18. This is in full rocket ship mode here. I want to know if Sean Udall is playing any of these things or watching any of these little Bitcoin plays. Have you seen the RIOT?
Yeah, I did not. I missed the RIOT and RIOT. Typically, if I don't know a name or haven't done work on it, I don't really trade it. That almost could go back to a morning routine. So some people can trade anything they see on a ticker, see on the chart. If I don't know something about it, I typically won't trade it. Rule I've had for well over a decade or more. Now I will do.
I just want to stop you there, Sean. You like to do your fundamental research before you even look at a chart, pretty much, don't you? Like, aren't you like looking at the fundamentals? Do I like what the company is all about? Doing your homework, then looking at chart, and and then maybe making the execution. But if you don't like the fundamentals or don't follow the fundamentals, you don't even touch it.
Yeah, I mean, so I spend a lot of time just ignoring lots of things, and I found that over the years, the success in my return production is way better if I stick to a smaller focus list. So I mean, I already cover and know about hundreds of names, maybe even 1,500 if I went, look through the whole lineage of everything, all these companies I know about. So, I'm constantly sort of just self-filtering names I know and trying to get down to a working list that's pretty short, pretty narrow. As far as blockchain, as far as this sort of technology. So here's what I would say, I think, from a fundamental standpoint in this group is I did like the whole theory of blockchain, and I still do. And I do think the people that end up owning and making money off blockchain as companies might ultimately be far more successful than companies just sort of peddling Bitcoin and things like Bitcoin. So, I mean, that's exactly was my premise in overstock.com. Now, I guess I wasn't bullish enough or didn't believe in the mania enough, because if I did, I would still be in overstock. I have no position in overstock right now. That's OSTK. But I like that stock in the teens. And, I think I've been out of it since around 35. Maybe I had a little left in the high 30s. And I'll buy that again. I mean, I'm kind of hoping and praying for some Bitcoin disaster and a week where overstock drops 20 or 25 or 30%. Because I do have a case where I could see that stock going materially higher. As far as these other things, I would say, like this whole RIOT thing, it kind of echoes, that 99 mania. But there's always manias in markets, so you can't, you can't make too much of them. But they're very interesting. As far as other names, I just don't. my general view is I'd like to find a way to more easily short Bitcoin, because I kind of think we're approaching a point where that trade would work and work really well. But let the mania run its course, let everything go up. The name I do like the most, though, could think this name, or think it goes higher, is overstock.com, but I just cannot buy it at 61. There's at least not now.
Why can't you just gotten too far? Like now it's getting expensive from your fundamental analysis. Like why now overstock? Because it's hot. Why are you hands off at this price?
It just more, everything in sort of the core of my being at this point thinks it's a better short than a long. I would say that's more of a technical, that's more of my technical view coming out. I can make a fundamental case for the stock to go quite a bit higher, but I just, things usually have to breathe. Sometimes they don't. But usually even really great names that go up and have 10 baggers and things like that, usually don't all do it in like 1 or 2 quarters. And if they do, you'll get a chance at them multiple times. So I kind of just think we're due for a refresh. Something could happen. Hey, we could wake up and another country says something negative about Bitcoin. And, at this point, it probably wouldn't be that hard for a $10 or $15 drop in overstock. And, 10, I would look at it. 15, I'd buy it probably for sure.
Sean, what are your thoughts here on Bitcoin? Let's go to, because all these are kind of Bitcoin plays, but we haven't got Sean Udall's actual thoughts on Bitcoin. We've had an incredible year in Bitcoin. Started the year, I don't know even where it started the year anymore. I can't keep track, but, it's obviously one of the best. They're calling it its own asset group here now, which I don't know if that's the case or not, but it's had an unbelievable year. You can't argue those numbers, up over $8,000 now. We got Joel in here now. What are your thoughts here on Bitcoin? Does the mania continue?
Well, I think the instrument stays around for a long time. So I would almost say that the viability of the instrument or cryptocurrencies has probably been proven, unless for some reason they're legislated or outlawed by too many entities or something. But my guess is, these have been around a while. They've been developing cryptocurrencies for many years now. And so maybe we've established viability, but I think it's a mania. Just like I thought gold was a mania whenever that peaked in 2012. I thought oil was a mania in 2008. I think Bitcoin's a mania now. And as you all know, trying to figure the exact top and short a mania correctly is not easy. But I think that's where we are. And so, the guys that thought 99 was stupid, a third of the way into the year ended up being right, but they were really wrong for 9 months. So, I don't know exactly where we are, but just the fact that, here's an anecdote. So, I talked to quite a few people about the world of finance, and both socially and professionally, and just shop talk and party talk and social gathering talk. If the conversation of Bitcoin comes up, it's very similar to conversations about how Yahoo felt, in 99. So we're there, we're in that phase, but nothing says it can't still go higher. But if I were to start trading Bitcoin, which I don't do currently, the only trades I would be looking at on Bitcoin right now would be on the short side and trying to catch shorts. Just like that's my attitude on Amazon currently. And I've been way more wrong than right this year on Amazon, but I've made money shorting Amazon a number of times. So that's where I am. I do think the technology is viable. I do think the entity of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies is viable. I really like blockchain technology because I think it actually could be used for a lot more things than just cryptocurrencies. I think there's a very, very interesting security aspect to blockchain. But that's it. I just think we're in that mania phase, and where it stops, nobody knows.
All right, there's some stocks moving in the pre-market off this, and I just wanted to see if you're familiar with any of these. SRAX here, there's one that we mentioned, not a real pretty looking chart on this one. Are you familiar with SRAX, MARA, or XNET?
Just to clarify, these are Bitcoin plays, Spencer. These are other Bitcoin plays now potentially too, because I'd never heard of any of these stocks before the last day or two.
Yeah, these are all stocks with similar to RIOT or more like to Overstock, where they have some blockchain or crypto
some type of exposure.
Yes,
because these things are all monsters this morning.
Yeah, doesn't social do something with potential trading of that? I've heard of social. Again, I can't say I know very much about it, but I have heard of that. I think there's something to do with exchanges or bidding exchanges or something. So I know a little bit about that name, but yeah, so I could see that all this stuff. Again, hey, you know, what did we do in '99? Let's take a company that's loosely based and has some technology and put a .com behind it and say we're a .com company. So, you know, when that stuff starts happening, we're usually in the later stages.
All right, so let's go fast forward here a little bit. You mentioned some old tech companies here. Dennis and I joke around, you know, General Electric, you know, should change the name to General Blockchain. Or do you think there's any is there any legacy technology companies that you think might be, you know, laying low in the grass right here to have a lot of patents and may pull an announcement and say, hey, you know, this blockchain is nothing new. We've been working on it and this is what we have. Any stocks that fall into that category?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely think, and in fact, okay, so Cisco just had a good report. How many years has Cisco been hated? Now, it's not as good of a buy as it was at like 22 to 25. But, you know, when stocks really start moving, they don't just move 20 or 30% and stop for another 5 years. They finally go and they go up multiples. And you know, Cisco's got a ton of technology. And I've kind of been thinking for a while that Cisco could go into a fairly strong upcycle again. There's also a net neutrality issue where if the network owners actually start getting paid a lot more for the pipes, right? All the people that own the internet don't really get paid much for the fact that they own the internet. They got to put 20 billion or 30 billion or more into keeping it going. But two of the strongest patent portfolios in tech are held by Cisco and IBM. And it would be almost shocking to me that if these two companies it would be shocking if these two companies don't have any patents in either blockchain or cryptocurrencies or that realm in some capacity. So yeah, I don't know that they do. But generally patent portfolios kind of work like that because what these guys do is they buy these patents in blocks and they buy patent developers and they buy out their whole portfolios. And over the whole, their life cycle, they've done so many mergers that they've acquired all these thousands upon thousands of patents. So another obvious one is Apple. Apple's got one of the strongest patent portfolios in the world, and I'm missing one. Sort of one of these big old school tech names. It'll come to me. But anyway, Cisco and IBM for sure. You know, you never know. They could say, hey, what, you know, everybody's making all this noise about Bitcoin. You know, we have a platform, or we could do this, or we have patents. So, and I kind of like Cisco anyway. I mean, I typically don't like buying something at a 52-week high, but there's an exception. The exception is I love buying stocks at a 52-week high if they're not anywhere close to all-time highs or multi-year highs, and that would be Cisco. And the fund, and it's a dirt cheap. I would put it. If you guys pull up a chart of NTAP, so NTAP, NetApp is the name. Yeah. Cisco kind of reminds me now of NTAP after it moved about 20 or 25%. And you know what is that? That stock's almost a three-bagger. So
what exactly do they do, NetApp? Like I see it trading all the time, and I've actually traded it before. But what exactly? You know, I know it's a tech company, what do they do?
Old school security and storage, mostly storage, a little bit of security. It's just basically an old school data storage play. They used to compete with EMC and IBM and all those guys. So in the era of server-based storage, that they were like one of the kings, and then they got passed up when the cloud came around. But they reinvented themselves. The stock was really cheap. I really messed up on this stock. I really liked this some time ago, and I didn't stay with it. You know, sometimes these value plays, you can be in them, and Joel will laugh at me. You can be 100% right, but you get so tired and so beaten up and so bored of holding them, and they don't work for a while. then you give up on them and you move on. And then, 6 weeks later or 3 months later, they end up taking off. So they are kind of tricky to time. But here's the beauty of Cisco. Cisco's already kind of running, and it's got momentum now, and it's kind of back in favor. They just put another good quarter out, and lo and behold, if they do say anything about that, they might have technology that could either help secure Bitcoin or assist in blockchain, or they own blockchain tech, or blah 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 blah. Who knows what it might do? But I've been looking at this name, and I've been actually thinking about some option plays on Cisco. Specifically, maybe some calls out 6 months or a year or something.
We've said on this show that we like Cisco too, and we were just giving the argument before the report, and I wish I would have had the guts to go long it before the report, but I didn't. It hasn't really, went like some of the other old school tech stocks have went. Like, I mean, you saw these incredible rebounds, and they're different, but they're still tech, like in Micron and Intel and Applied Materials. They've had incredible years. Cisco has lagged. Cisco, if we look at it even on a monthly chart, really this year, it started around 31 and it's at 36. So it's had an okay year. But when you look at where Micron started this year, Micron was $20. It's 49 here now. Applied Materials, it started the year, it was 30 and it's almost 60. It's almost double. Even Intel, INTC old school Intel was $34 and it's up at, over 44. So it's at a bigger move. Cisco has lagged, and I like that too. I think if they ever came out and said anything like, we're, got some Bitcoin technology here, it would be so far back in favor so quickly, Sean. I mean, that's, just a nice little wild card.
But I mean, look at the weekly chart on Cisco. I mean, it's a thing of beauty, and I will definitely get long Cisco in some capacity, in the next few weeks, because there's some other stuff I'm getting rid of and trimming, and this is definitely a name. I kind of like to have a stodgy old large cap tech company. By the way, I mean to hunker in and to have a good chunk of my assets or trading assets in, because the risk of downside is usually pretty low. And again, sometimes these things just go in a big heater. By the way, don't ignore IBM here. I mean, everybody's poo-pooing IBM's last quarter. IBM's last quarter was massively improved. IBM has tons of ways that they can monetize that machine. IBM's probably, this is more of my classic buy. I actually think IBM's a better buy than Cisco, because Cisco was a better buy 6 points lower. But, I like IBM here too. They had a good quarter. They had a breakout. Well, I rarely agree with Jim Cramer, but he was right. Berkshire has been dumping IBM. So a lot of the pressure on IBM the last few weeks has been, one of the biggest shareholders has been dumping it probably every day. So, once that's done, that stock could do a lot better.
That's a great point. Something, that we don't consider when the seller is big enough. We've said on the show a lot of times, institutional money that really moves stocks. And how much of that down move was, Warren just lightening up. And he's out now. And since it was announced that he was out, and that was around, or not out, but, he dumped 2/3 of his position. Since that was announced like when the stock was like 147, 148, that was right at the bottom. So now that Warren has stopped selling over the course of the last week and a half or 2 weeks, stocks are actually starting to show some life. That's just a great point, Sean, that you're making there. That sometimes maybe we don't, the market doesn't consider, when they see, on a weak move, is how much I was just, maybe one big guy lightening up his position.
That's right. And I just to finish the point, I actually think the move, so the move to 160 is more right than wrong. Now, I wasn't jumping in to buy IBM at 160. I was kind of waiting for a fade, but hey, here's the fade. And on these high price stocks, they're better, option plays. So, call spreads, short put spread. Well, there's a ton of different ways you could create a bullish position on this. So I'm definitely looking at both IBM and Cisco.
We're on with a special guest here. It's Sean Udall. He's the CIO of Quantum Trading Strategies. Sean, a couple stocks have been mentioned as mining plays, and we haven't gone to them yet. NVIDIA, this thing has just been a monster. And AMD, could you give us your views on those two issues?
Yeah, I mean, in fact, AMD now, I've been kind of looking at that more short than long most of the year, or at least put it this way, from 14 to 15. And I've shorted AMD several times. Now, didn't they just announce, I believe they just announced that they might be working with Intel. So I mean, if that's really the case, I need to dig into that a little deeper. I've heard the news on that, but I haven't really looked at the full, like what their scope is going to be. I need to do that. That's kind of on my to-do list. If that's the case, that might change my view on AMD. And AMD has pulled back a fair bit too from highs. NVIDIA, man, I'm still going to fight the power. I think it's overpriced. It's a chip company that's selling at a software company valuation. I know the stock was very expensive between 125 and 150, and it's another 100 points higher than that. So, it's just a matter of time. I mean, the one thing people can easily forget, they've done this out every cycle, is they forget semiconductor companies are cyclical. So when everything is good, they start thinking these are secular growers. That semiconductor companies are not secular growth companies. So at some point, they will have a string of quarters where numbers will be very hard to meet. In fact, they'll miss numbers. And they'll miss numbers just because, guess what? Not that they're doing anything wrong at all. They might be running the company as perfectly well as they can, but they run into a bad cycle. So, at some point, I wouldn't be surprised to see NVIDIA, at $100 or even $60 again.
All right, and coming out of the chat here from Spinner, Redfin, RDFN. Spinner didn't think the earnings were so bad. Any comments on RDFN?
Yeah, that's probably going to be one of my top stocks for next year. So I really like Redfin a lot. I think it's very disruptive. I think it'll be it'll be a massively larger company in 5 years than it is today, assuming I'm right. But I think all the signs are there. I'm trying to remember if we talked about this name yet. I'm trying, but here's the whole point. The only place that you can still get a high commission that I would argue is way too high is in real estate. We all worked in the world of the brokerage industry when stock commissions used to be $100 a trade. What'd they do? They turned them into pennies per trade. So anything any space that technology can disintermediate and change the transaction price and lower it, real estate hasn't had that happen. And that's exactly what Redfin's doing. So the only thing that would really change my thesis on Redfin is if 2 or 3 other companies enter the market and do it better than them. But I don't see anybody on the horizon. So that's literally one of my favorite names, one of my favorite new IPOs of the last year.
So even though the stock's kind of going straight down, this is one where, you're contrarian on this and you're a buyer of the pullback?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Like the name. I bought some recently. I'll be buying some more. I actually thought the quarter was fine. I think they technically missed like something by about a penny. This is one of those things too, where you'll see these, the things that Dennis and I always laugh about. Okay, what's funny? When an analyst upgrades a stock to a buy after it's moved 120%. Okay, that's funny. Another thing that I always find funny is when a company loses 30% of its market cap over a penny, literally a penny. Okay, so if they would have beat by a penny, they stay the same price or go up. They miss an earnings report by a penny and the stock goes down 20 or 30%. I mean, but that's what happens. And that's the beauty of this game. And that's what gives us so many trades. But no, I like Redfin a lot.
Another stock coming from the chat is NTNX, Nutanix. What are your thoughts? I think I said that right.
Nutanix. Yeah, I've liked it. Yeah, I like this name a lot better. This is one of my big winners for the year. So this name is much more pleasurable for me to talk about than NVIDIA. Let's say that. So what did I just say? I think Needham upgraded them and put a pretty nice target on them just 2 days ago. Where were they at 15? Where were they at 17? Nutanix has rattled off 2, if not 3 good quarters in a row off the lows. They had 3 chances to upgrade the stock on the back of a good quarter, and which that would have been 18, 24, and 28. Well, whatever. I'll take the upgrade now because I'm still in the name and I plan on buying on pullbacks. I think they're going to have a good quarter again. I like it. I don't know how high it goes. But yeah, now we're getting the analyst love. So that's where these things get momentum and they keep going. So the analysts were nowhere when the thing was 50% lower. Now they're coming in onto the name.
Talking about analysts here, and I mean, some of the comments we make tongue in cheek, but some of them are pretty good and make some pretty good calls and really move stocks. So do you have any favorites, or some that, hey, when they make a move? I mean, obviously Goldman with the name itself can move a stock, or they're, in the tech sector. There are any analysts you probably give a little bit more attention to and credit than others.
That's a good question. I don't know if I don't know if there's like any of them that I would say, hey, just knowing them based on their name. I mean, Munster was very good and very strong and had great conviction in the names he liked, and his long-term record speaks for itself. A guy that gets maligned a lot is Brian White. And you could make a case that he's been the most right on Apple of anybody, because he's been the most bullish on Apple of anybody for a long time. And he's been highly maligned and highly criticized, and yet the guy probably made the best calls and the most successful on the name, even though Munster would probably say they get the most credit on Apple. So, those two guys that definitely have a lot of respect. Here's what I tend to do. I don't say these guys are awful, and I don't say they're great. They're basically paid to move stocks. So now I don't think they'd say that, but I think any of us in the profession know that. So what I tend to do is judge the quality of their last call on their last stock. So you can have an analyst make a terrible call on Nutanix and make a brilliant call on something else, right? So, and by the way, there were a couple guys that went from neutrals to buys on Nutanix when it was under 20. And those were really good calls. And I can't remember who they were now, because that was a number of months ago. But I keyed off those calls. Those calls helped me trade. They helped me make money. So, thank you to the analysts that upgraded Nutanix at, 1750 or 1850 coming out of the trough. That was a really good call. I recognized it, and, I utilized that call. So that's kind of more what I do. I wouldn't say that I don't know if I'm sure we can all probably remember an analyst that has been terrible and maybe is no longer in the game. But I think most of the time they do a pretty good job at knowing the company, know what the drivers are. Just the timing of their calls is very suspect sometimes.
Couple more stocks coming out of the chat, and then we're going to get to these retail stocks here too, because we know it's Retail Friday. CYBR and AMBA. This is coming from Spinner, one of your fans there. CYBR and AMBA.
Yeah, okay, so CYBR is now getting very interesting. This is a stock that kind of gave me some heartburn for a good number of months this year. They got maligned kind of on this effect I just talked about, where they maybe missed a thing by a penny or two, missed something by $1 million revenues here and there. They finally produced a good quarter, beat on all metrics. That's my favorite cybersecurity name is CYBR, CyberArk. So, this is a name I can value very easily up into the $70, $75, $85 range. That's kind of where I plan on keeping the position and trading around it until it gets there. And they just had a good quarter. So this is, again, what I think will probably happen is they'll kind of grind to, something in the mid to high 50s. And then I think the analysts will come in. So I think it's a good value buy for a while. And then when the analysts come in, then it becomes more of a technical momentum trade. And I think it'll go through the whole cycle, just as Splunk has done, and just as Data has done, and a bunch of these other ones. And then Dennis, what was that other name?
Amberella.
Amba.
Yeah, Amberella.
Yeah. So same kind of deal. In fact, we might have had a show where I liked Amba way cheaper, but now they don't have a huge patent portfolio, and I don't think they do anything with blockchain. But Amba has very, very good IP, intellectual property. So I think Amba is going to go into another big growth phase. That was a very hot, very sexy stock. I mean, hey, Amba was kind of a mini version of Bitcoin itself, and it was a great short from 100 to 125 and crashed and burned. But I do think the company is very viable. They have good technology, and I think they're going to have a really good year next year.
All right, well, let's get away here from tech. We could certainly come back to it. And the retail sector, Sean, I know you like to crunch numbers in a lot of different stocks. A lot of stocks are trading up here. Can you make a comment on some retail stocks?
Hey, I screen all the sectors, and I have a big valuation matrix. I do. I like retail. In fact, I'm really mad I was not in any Foot Locker ahead of their report because I was looking at that name.
Me too, because we talked about it.
I just, and here. Okay, so here's that setup. I didn't know they were going to have a great report, and I didn't know they're going to go up that much. I just thought, is it possible that no matter what they report, the stock goes up anyway?
That's what we were saying. Because so many retail stocks had already popped. That was like one of the last ones, and I'm like, man, if they say anything, even remotely okay, the stock is going to pop, and then they blow it away.
They blow it away. I'm literally still mad. I was at the gym yesterday, and I was mad at myself for not being long Foot Locker. So, but Under Armour. Under Armour. I think the last time we were on the show, we talked about Dick's Sporting Goods. I think Dick's Sporting Goods is a very good long. I think that's popped. I think since we talked about it, it's probably up $3 or $4, which isn't huge, but it's probably 20%. Dick's has that monopoly in brick and mortar sporting goods. I think that's that stock could triple from here. Under Armour is more of a faith play. I really like Under Armour. I think Under Armour, worst case, could get bought out for quite a bit more money. I could be wrong. I mean, sometimes you just have to buy stuff and let it work and be willing to risk money. I mean, there's a lot of times trades just don't work and you're going to lose money. But Under Armour is kind of one of these things. If it works, it's like every $4 for every buck down sort of a trade. So, it could end up being a crappy stock, and maybe someday I have to sell Under Armour at 8 or something. But if I'm right, I'm probably selling it at 28 to 38 or higher. So I just think it's just washed out. I like the chart. It's had 2 huge gaps. It's sort of recovering. But this, it's just too cheap. I mean, there's too many ways that the stock could recover. I think that my odds of success here are pretty high. What's in that? Macy's, I have to dig into Macy's real estate portfolio, but I do think it's pretty strong. They haven't really had much of a recovery either. But my 2 favorites are definitely Dick's and Under Armour. And then a third would be ELF. Do you guys know ELF, ELF?
We
ELF
follow,
Beauty.
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so the interesting thing about ELF is I think they're doing exactly what they need to do. They're in the right market. They have the right distribution channel, but it's an IPO. And as you guys know, for the first 12 to 18 months a company trades, it can trade very weird. And there's probably all sorts of reasons we don't want to get into, but a stock they can do a lot of things right. And the stock just trades junky for a year and a half. And then if they keep doing well, then it trades more like it should have traded based on its growth potential. So ELF would be a third. That's not really a retailer, but they sell through retail channels and all that kind of stuff. So, and everybody, hey, we're supposedly in the selfie generation. Everybody wants to look good for their selfies. So ELF is the much more economical way for people to look good and apply makeup and all that stuff. So I think ELF's going to be a big winner long term.
What about Walmart? It's had an incredible move. Everybody had it for dead last year, and it's been on a run. It took out the $100 level just by the smallest of margins, $100.13, and now it's starting to calm down a little bit here. I mean, they were talking Walmart like this is going head to head with Amazon. It's funny how the media just turns because last year they were saying, oh, Amazon was eating Walmart's lunch. I can remember it even gapping down when Amazon bought Whole Foods. Everybody's completely forgot about all that now. And they're like, Walmart is the new Amazon here all of a sudden. I mean, this media has changed their opinion so much on this issue. Are they getting too bullish up here at $96?
Maybe short term, but I actually think Walmart goes higher.
You like it too?
If you can, yeah, no, I think Walmart goes higher. This is another mistake. I actually made some money in Walmart. I had the stock, I think at least 2 times, maybe 3 times over the last year and a half or so. I've made good trades on it, but it was kind of, those bad, when you feel like a genius because you make a 15% trade and then the stock goes up another 40%. So you're never wrong making money, but sometimes you're a lot more right. And, I'm kind of kicking myself. I think my last sale on Walmart literally was like $69 or $70, by the way. So it's, I've missed a huge run, but I don't mind that because in a name like Walmart, if I'm trading it, I'm not looking to hold Walmart long term. Like I'll hold Apple long term because it's in my wheelhouse. I'm probably not going to hold Walmart long term. But yeah, I'd rather be selling it now than I did at 70 or so. But no, I kind of think Walmart goes higher. I think if you can, hey, everybody in the world justifies the move in Amazon, and nobody thinks, I'm one of the few people that think Amazon has moved way too much and shouldn't be here. So if the world is right on Amazon and I'm wrong, then Walmart's probably worth $200 a share or something like that.
Wow. Coming from our chat, Spinner wants to know about Ulta Beauty, ULTA. Stock has had a rough year. This is one of those retailers, and a lot of retailers have had rough years. I mean, this one really had it rough, at least since the summer. June, it was $314. Here we are, it's 100 points lower here now, 6 months later. Starting to show some life, though, in the chart in the last month and a half. ULTA, is this one you're interested in?
Yeah, I have looked at this as a short in the past and long many years ago. So basically, my whole premise on ELF, a lot of that is based on how well Ulta did over a number of years. But at this point, I honestly still think it's a fundamental short, but I would not short Ulta at all through the holiday season. So they probably have a good potential to bounce and kind of catch some of this retail love. You know, I don't know really. I mean, just looking at the chart here, I mean, they could easily do a 50% retracement from the recent range, which would be, I don't know, they'd have 25 or 30 points of upside pretty easily here. But yeah, no, I think it's a fundamental short. I wouldn't short it now. I wouldn't short it through the holidays. Maybe if it got back to like something closer to 250 or certainly above 250, and then I've got to assess it, you know, basically day by day. But the great company, they did everything right. Here's the problem. Ulta can't really build nearly as many new stores as they used to build. And that was the whole premise. And so, you know, when they went from 10 stores to 20 and then 30 and then 40, it was a great growth story. Well, you know, it's sort of like Chipotle. Once you have a Chipotle on every corner, there's not really that many areas you can keep building new Chipotles and keep getting growth. So, you know, Ulta probably kind of maxed out their footprint, and that's why they're going to have a hard time growing as much as they used to in the past.
What about Chipotle CMG here? Big fall from grace, 758 down to currently 281.27 here. Monthly chart here, trying to find a bottom above 250 here. Still trading pretty high price PE. Any thoughts on CMG?
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't think I'd short it here. I'll start looking at this again. Again, not a name in my wheelhouse. I mean, this was something I was just super bearish on. They basically were they were their own bubble. So I don't know who on God's green earth thought it was smart to buy the stock at 600 to 700. And if they held it, they got taught a very good lesson. So, I don't know. I think to me, this is kind of like one of my no touches. So there's tons of names like this. I mean, you could buy this chart. It might bounce. It might work. It's a lot better buy here than it was at 700. But what if they just don't grow anymore? What if other taco concept places become the new Chipotles? I mean, so there's a lot of unknowns here. This is sort of in my no trade, my huge basket of kind of no trade stocks. But if you guys if I had to make a call, I would say it's probably a better long here than a short.
Sean, I want to take you over to the payment stocks, these online payment stocks, obviously, and you go Square.
Oh,
PayPal.
My baby PayPal.
PayPal's been a monster, and Square has even been more of a monster here, especially since they said they were going to accept Bitcoin. But let's go PayPal first, PYPL. Everybody's giving Square the love here right now, and nobody's talking as much about PayPal, but I tell you, PayPal's been a monster stock here too. This is one that you said, when you have these good trades and, you sell it for 15, 20% gain, and then you watch it go another 50%. That's me and PayPal. I've been watching this thing all the way up because I actually had this from eBay. So I had eBay, and I can't even talk about it right now. I had eBay in my long-term portfolio.
It chokes me up when I look at things like that.
Oh, I know. It's choking me up too. I had eBay long-term portfolio, spun me off PayPal. And I held PayPal for the longest time. It started to feel like it was overdone when it was getting in the 40s and it was starting to look toppy. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna, sell the stock. And it was the worst sale ever because 6 months later or a year later, here it is at 77. I'm like, why did I sell that at $42? Even though I made money, it feels like a losing trade.
Yeah, and hey, I still like PayPal. Now I can't be nearly so I have a list. I publish a list of all my fundamental picks, and I write about these things and all this kind of stuff. So I'm going to give you my exact target on PayPal, which has been the same target for roughly a year. My price target on PayPal is $76.40. So I have not raised it. I probably should raise it. I definitely could raise it, and I will. But it's basically fulfilled. So this was the price target I had when the stock was where was it a year ago? $40, 42. So and somebody asked about Redfin. So this is a perfect example. I'm probably going to trim PayPal for Redfin, and I'm definitely going to replace PayPal as one of my top 20 stocks for Redfin. Now that doesn't mean though that PayPal can't go. I mean, look at the move in something like Facebook over 5 to 6 years. Look at the move in Google. Look at the move in Arista Networks. Look at the move in Workday. Blah 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 blah. So these now PayPal is a secular growth company. I firmly believe that. By the way, it's fundamentally way cheaper on valuation than Facebook is, and has higher growth. So I don't ultimately know where PayPal could go. But I'm right now, I'm kind of a pause on PayPal because it's gone up. It's roughly doubled. It could go up a lot more, but it's just like, this is one, there's no way I would buy it here at 78.
I feel like it's fully valued.
Now, will I buy? Yeah, it will, or it's fully valued near term. It might not be fully valued for out years, but there's just no, I mean, I need something to happen. I need a market correction. I need a negative note on PayPal. What if something, same thing, what if something bad happens in Bitcoin? They might take 8 points out of PayPal for no reason. So, it wouldn't take me a huge, like, I wouldn't need to pull back to 60 to buy PayPal. Although, man, would I love one. But yeah, I need something. I'm not going to buy. In fact, I'm going to trim PayPal, and I have been trimming some. So I really like stock, like it long term, but to me, I kind of view it like I viewed Apple for a number of years. I think PayPal could be a good, strong growth company for, maybe a decade or more. So, you have to manage these positions. They get to price points where it's hard. You find other names, you substitute for a while, or maybe here would be ideal for PayPal. And this is how Facebook has traded many times. Maybe it just trades in a tight range for 2 or 3 quarters and consolidates this huge move. And then, they add 3 more quarters of good growth. Guess what? A year from now, PayPal's not nearly as expensive as they are right now. So if in 9 months, PayPal's 75 or 70 or 78, I'm probably pretty interested in it again. And I don't mind holding it. I don't mind writing calls on it right now. So, but it's been a monster, and I think it's gone up a lot. And, I think what we're seeing with so many companies like this, aren't we vulnerable maybe to catch a correction? So, I mean, I'm just interjecting that in. I mean,
what is that? Joel, what is that?
Yeah. So, we talk about, when you see this many stocks that have moved 50 to 100 to 150%, I don't know, a lot of times, you're within, weeks or months where you really should be reducing exposure. So, that's just a different subject, but like I said, that's why there's no way I'm going to buy PayPal here at 78, because I'm looking at too many charts that look like this. So it makes me want to sell stuff versus buy stuff.
What about Square? This stock is just, total rocket ship mode here. I mean, we've liked it all the way up, and we've been talking about all the way up, but now it's getting to a ridiculous level here. No?
Same thing. Okay. Now you want to hear something really stupid? Okay. As much as I supported Jack Dorsey. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, as much as I like Jack, who was the guy that said Jack Dorsey should run the company? Me. Then he did. Then who was the only guy on the planet that didn't think he should be fired? Everybody thought Dorsey should have been fired. I didn't. Okay, Dorsey runs Square too. Where was I on Square? I mean, I never really disliked the company. And I mean, I looked at the stock at 11. I looked at it at 9. I looked at it at 14. I just have completely missed this company. And if there was a single human being on the planet that should have been bullish on Square, it should have been me. Because I'm because of Dorsey, because of Twitter, because of my views, because of, And by the way, really, if you like Square, if you're looking at Square now, don't buy Square, buy Twitter. He's going to do the same thing with Twitter he's done with Square. And then Twitter has way more potential long term. So, I think the trade, I might put this on. I might stay long Twitter and short Square and just keep it as a pair trade.
I tell you, Joel said this 4 days ago on the show, and Joel said, with the Square moving like this, when does Twitter start, playing catch up here? And I remember, and I was like, this is 4 days ago, and Joel just mentioned it, around $20.50. And I played it all week. I actually I played Twitter 3 or 4 times from the long side just because of Joel saying that. And I mean, it's been dead right. Twitter has had a monster move here the last 4 or 5 days. So people are playing it as a Dorsey just because Square is doing so well. They're jumping into Twitter. So that trade is on right now.
And I guess we got to get to Twitter now. We got 4 minutes left in the show. So Dennis and I just hang up and let you do the 4 minutes, or what do you got for us on Twitter? What I noticed.
I think we've.
Go ahead.
I think we've kind of talked enough about Twitter. I mean, it's why hasn't it moved yet? I mean, that's the only mystery. And here's why. We're just missing that last ingredient, that institutional sponsorship of Twitter. I think by the way, I think plenty of institutions have been increasing exposure to Twitter over the last 2 quarters. So we're just waiting for that moment. We're just waiting for the moment where a couple more analysts go from negative to positive. We're waiting for a little more of a growth inflection, which, by the way, they've had plenty of evidence for the last 2 or 3 quarters. So I think Twitter is going to work fine, and it's about time. It needs to go. And maybe Square finally doing what it's doing here. There is some leverage they could do. Maybe they bring an executive or 2 from Square into Twitter. And by the way, that if they haven't done that already, that might not be a bad idea. But there's some leverage they could get off Square into Twitter too.
Any price targets here? Twitter's had a nice move up here. Any upside price targets for Twitter?
Yeah, well, my target on that, it's basically 36 to 38 is kind of my what I would say my conservative target for Twitter is. And I've kind of had that since the stock went under, 18. So, and that's conservative. I mean, ultimately, I think the company is worth a lot more. But, I'm not going to raise that target until I see the stock get something closer to it. So I'm not going to have an $80 target on Twitter if it can't go above 30.
All right, a few more out of the chat before we wrap things up here. Starbucks, any opinion on Starbucks, SBUX? Probably not. Again, okay. I would almost say Starbucks is kind of like that Ulta Beauty. I mean, I don't know. Aren't there just 100, 200 other better stocks to buy than Starbucks? I don't know. It doesn't really. I don't really think it's a good short here. It's not a very exciting long. It's kind of a no touch for me. All right, we've been on the line. We've been joined by Sean Udall. He's the CIO of Quantum Trading Strategies, covering a lot of stocks and a lot of different sectors. Son, we enjoy your fundamental view. I like you crunching the numbers, and your technical analysis is spot on too. You can follow him on Twitter at Udall Tech Strat. Sean, great having you on. A great segment, and we'll have to do this again soon.
Guys, appreciate it. Feel very privileged to be here, and I hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving and have a happy holidays if I don't talk to you before Christmas.
Okay. All right. S&P futures still in the green here by 375. Dennis, we're getting some calls for imbalances. What do you see out there? Or did Dennis leave?
Did we lose Dennis? No, Dennis is... He's here. Dennis?
I'm here. Okay. Sorry. I was on mute. I pulled the old Joel trick. Look at that. I'm on mute. You haven't done that in a long time, Joel, by the way. You've been good like that. No, I was on mute. So this is holiday trade. So it means liquidity is going to be a little bit less. It means imbalances can actually be more influential because there's not as many, traders out there to offset these, because a lot of traders are taking extra extended holidays, especially some of these institutional traders. So stocks can really move. So the imbalances are interesting on a day like this. GE, 462,000 to buy. GE showing some life the last couple of days. I like the candle from Wednesday, and obviously today it's already up 25 cents here in the pre-market. So GE getting a little left, huge buy and bounce, 462,000 shares to buy. Square 96,000 to buy, has a buy and bounce every day, but Square's been trading down the pre-market the entire, and it was trading down after hours on Friday. And Square had a rough day on Wednesday. So despite closing fairly strong on Wednesday, Square opened at the high and then dumped about 8% in, a matter of like an hour. So we went from 49.55 down to 46, and then we came all the way back. I think it spooked a few people though, so I don't know if I'm a buyer of Square here like I always am. It seems like every morning I've been buying. I've been coming in here long Square and just selling when it's up 1% the next day. I didn't do that over Wednesday just because I didn't like that candle from Wednesday and the way it was trading. I think there's a few people who spooked here, so I think as if you get into the 49s here again, I think you got sellers. I don't know what your thoughts are on Square, Joe. We asked Sean. What are your thoughts?
I mean, technically $50, psychological level. That big buying balance, I noticed that someone finally, who was in the chat? Soho, I think, was looking at finally wanted to short. There was a big buying balance. You had that open. 48.81 is trading down 15 cents. So keep an eye on that. That is the all-time closing high. That would be a good level. I traded big volume on Friday, also a psych level like 50, but big range in Square. And the only thing I wanted to say about G, I know we're running a minute over here. It didn't really go down when on supposed bad news from that Deutsche Bank analyst. I mean, it hit it a little bit, but sometimes when the stock doesn't go down, you see with bad news, it could be a sign of a turnaround. All right.
No, I think this is showing a little bit of life here. So, and GE, I take it with a grain of salt. We are going to come into tax loss selling season eventually here, and the trend is definitely still not your friend. That doesn't mean, this stock went from $24 down to 17 in a matter of a month for a big stock like that. This thing could correct, and it could see $20 here again. So I like it, as a short-term trade here from the upside. Long-term, still have my investment portfolio. Long-term, I guess I'm sticking with it, but long-term, the jury is definitely still out there on General Electric.
Were there any more besides GE and Square?
Yeah, there was Macy's, which this is Retail Friday. We didn't talk a lot about the retail stocks, but they are all getting a lift here in the pre-market. So it does look like that's following. I don't know if we've seen any stats coming out yet from the sales yet, but they're all buying them ahead of those stats. Macy's is trading up 1.6% in the pre-market. It's got 99,000 shares to buy here this morning. I'm looking at Kohl's trade out. I'm looking, and full disclosure, I'm long Macy's and long Kohl's as trades just because I'm bringing them into Thursday and bringing them into the Black Friday. Walmart's trading up here. Target's trading up. So retail looks like it's going to have a hot morning here, the traditional retailers, so keep an eye on that sector. Twitter has 102,000 shares to buy. Twitter continues to catch a bid here over the course of the last 4 or 5 days. Just jumping over here. Citigroup, 50,000 to sell. Nike, I was looking at that. That's 48,000 to sell. So Nike going the opposite way. There's been some selling balances in Nike lately, so that's been a little bit of a trend in the morning. That's about it. They're mixed otherwise.
All right, yeah, and you mentioned it is a little bit too early to get for any Black Friday sales results so far. I have seen though that based on just social media, the lines have been less than expected. The Journal has a cool little feature where they showed side-by-side comparisons of Black Friday in 2011 and last night at major retailers, and just not many people, based on the Journal, that feature. And Brian Sazzi from The Street also wrote about just the stores he was at had not as many people as expected. So that'll be something to keep in mind next week. But that is our show for us today, folks. Hope you enjoyed it, and hope you enjoyed having Sean on for the extended time, pretty much the entire time, actually. So hope you all had a good Thanksgiving. If you want to catch any part of this show again, you can catch our podcast or just go to youtube.com/BenzingaTV and catch the show again as it aired there. But have a good rest of your day, folks, and have a good weekend. We'll be back with you on Monday.